Hey, what's up? It's Privacy J here. It's time for another season 2 of the Sunday's live stream. So, earlier today, we talked about the Knicks won and the Knicks parade. So, now we talk about Juneteenth. So, we'll start with today's topics, and including with the happened this past Friday. It was the festival Calle Colombia. So let's start with this one, the Juneteenth. So, how news of the em, emancip, emancipation pro, pro, proclamation spread through the South, right? Weeks after the Civil War's guns fell silent in barely 2 months after the president Abraham Lincoln's don't want to mention the politics. Let's see. Assassination. Assassination. Union troops arrived in Union troops arrived in Gal, Galv is it Galveston, Texas. They had come to enforce to emancipation. 1 second. Yeah, I'm not gonna do that in Spanish because I had to translate that. Just give me a minute. Sorry, hold on. Hold on. All right, here we go. So they had come to enforce the Emancipation Proclamation, an order freeing enslaved humans in seceded Confederate states. And the date they arrived, June 19, 1860, June 19, 1865, is now remembered as the first Juneteenth. The Emancipation Proclamation had been issued years earlier during the war. On January 1st, sorry, on January 1st, 1863, it's the version most commonly emphasized in history books. The executive order that Lincoln himself reportedly said was the great event of the ninth century and has lasting legacy. But word of such as an order had already been circulating throughout the South for months. A preliminary proclamation, which contained much the same wording as the historic order, which issued on September 22nd, 1862, days after the Battle of Antietam, the single bloodiest day in American military history. The purpose of it was to warn that if the Confederate states that don't return to the Union by January 1st, Lincoln will in fact issue a final proclamation. Proclamation, right? Yes. According to Harold Halzer, a Lincoln historian. Not all enslaved humans immediately knew about Lincoln's orders, but many learned of it while the fighting was still raging. Rumors spread through informal networks, sometimes inadvertently from slaveholders themselves, says Holzer, who directs the Roosevelt House Public Policy Institute at Hunter College in New York. Slaveholders would often discuss the proclamation right in front of the humans they enslaved, he says. They wrongly assumed that since enslaved humans were prohibited from reading and writing, they would be oblivious, oblivious to discussion of events around them. Black newspapers abolitionist papers and black church group also shared information. According to Carly Carter Carly Carter Jackson, chair of Africana Studies at West at Wells at Wellesley College. All throughout the South, there are networks of communication that allow them to do so, she says. So for slaves who know that this is happening, literally at midnight on January 1st, 1863, they're ready to party, ready for Jubilee. The states bordering those who secede, though, were an exception to the proclamation's reach. These slaveholding states that choose to remain in the Union at the outbreak of war were exempted from the proclamation. They included Delaware, Maryland, Kentucky, Missouri, and West Virginia, Halsey says. Enslaved humans in the border states were enormously frustrated, he says. They largely knew of the proclamation and that they were not eligible. There is a famous letter written by an enslaved woman named Annie to Abraham Lincoln in 1863. He says, "Dear Mr. President, my name is Annie. I live in Maryland. I want to be free. How can I be free? The harping and the monster, but the moral force of the Emancipation Proclamation and the seeming in in inevitability of the end of the slavery led three border states to the end the practice even before the end of the war. The historians who spoke with NPR say Delaware and Kentucky held out until the ratification of the 13th Amendment, the constitutional, the constitu, the consti, the constit, the constat, the constat, the constitutional change that officially abolished slavery in December 1865, and that Lincoln described as the harping in the monster. As early as 1862, black Southerners were already crossing into Union lines to escape slavery, an exodus that would intensify as the Confederacy increasingly lost ground to Union force. The practice of running toward Union troops and offering their service begins before the Emancipation Proclamation, according to Blair L. M. Keeley, president and director of the National Humanities Center and author of Black Freedom: A Visual History of Juneteenth and Emancipation Days. They are not participants in the cause of the Confederacy. Keeley says, in many cases, she says, slaves withheld their labor and ran to the Union troops as soon as the opportunity presented itself. I think the idea really for most of the enslaved was that if the Union comes, you are free. Keeley says they absolutely knew that the war was about the liberation. And although instructions to Union forces about how to handle escaped slaves were ambiguous, ambiguous before the proclamation, before the proclamation, Union Gen William Tecumseh Sherman famously complained about the thousands of camp followers attached to his army. Eventually, Northern troops were a primary source of the news about emancipation. Holzer says Union soldiers carried copies of the Emancipation Proclamation as they pushed south through the Confederacy. Soldiers distributed them to slaveholders and even freed slaves who could read to make it clear to them that all of the enslaved humans in the area they had just conquered were forever free. So while the news was not entirely known to many enslaved humans when federal troops reached Galveston, Juneteenth indoors, marking the moment that the rumors of freedom finally become reality. All right, move along to the next topic. It's about Columbia Street Festival this year in Jackson Heights. This was happened yesterday, this June 20th, yesterday on Saturday. Schedules, free services, and logistics. The event is coordinated by the Office of the State Senator Jessica Ramos, and admission is free. The intersection of 82nd Street and 37th Avenue in Queens will be transformed this it was yesterday on Saturday, June 20th, into the epic center of one of the most important community and cultural events for the Hispanic community of the district. The fifth edition of the Columbia Festival returns to Jackson Heights from 12 p.m. to 7 p.m., consolidating itself not only as a platform for local folklore and gastronomy, but also as a strategic point of social assistance and free access to public resources. The event promoted under the coordination of the Office of State Senator Jessica Ramos, is free and open to residents of all nationalities. 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 This year, the festivities coincide with the sporting atmosphere in New York City as one of the official venues for the 2026 FIFA World Cup, integrating theme activities designed for the enjoyment and integration of Hispanic families in a safe environment. Access to the health and assistance resource without barriers beyond the artistic performances and gastronomic displays that characterize Little Columbia. The festival prioritizes providing support tools for the immigrant community, regardless of their legal status. During the 7-hour event, various local agencies and nonprofit organizations will set up mobile units to offer guidance on family development programs, assistance in finding social resource, and distribution of local food banks. In the area of prevent preventa- preventative health, the space will feature medical fairs where attendees can access free HIV and other, not to mention STD screenings, and as well as counseling on confidential treatments available in the city without requiring medical insurance of proof of immigration status. According to Senator Jessica Ramos, the 5-year duration of this space aims to recognize the economic and social contributions of the Latino population in Queens, while also promoting a sense of belonging in direct support for the small businesses in the area that form the fabric of the neighborhood. Logistics, road closures, and transportation recommendations. Due to the high influx of families and the setup of cultural pavilions on Columbia Street, 82nd Street, and 37th Avenue, vehicle restrictions and street closures are anticipated in the Jackson Heights area throughout Saturday. Local authorities recommend avoiding the use of private cars and opting for the city's public transport. To get to the event directly, the most efficient option is to use the Metropolitan MTA subway service via the Line 7 train, getting off at the 82nd Street Jackson Heights station, which is located a few meters from the start of the community fair. All right. That's all. So, anyways, that's all for the quick stream for today. So we'll get to the FIFA World Cup in the next Sunday's live stream where we talk about. So yeah, so stay tuned for the next Sunday's live stream. So, anywho's that's all for today's stream, and we're coming up in the next content this week. What we're talking about that we didn't do is a real future content that we work on before my 26th birthday. Oh, and don't forget my birthday's next month. That I'm turning 26 in 5 weeks. So we will never forget, and we'll get to that. I'll make a video about that. So like and comment, subscribe, and let me know about it. So we're gonna subscribe to my 3 channels: Privacy J Productions 1, 2, and 3, and my content. All of my social medias will let you know all about it. Facebook, my name is Jaden Garcia. Instagram is JTech727. Snapchat is Scoots0727. Follow me on X, Privacy JNYC1. And follow me on TikTok, Privacy J Official, same name on Instagram. So thanks for watching and peace out.